Hello and welcome to the show. This week's Failrace versus the community. We were to go racing with C-Class Classic American cars, vehicles made 1980 and earlier. Our first race was at the Sonoma GP layout, and while the top three would make a really rather good getaway, a little bit of lag would cause a rather large concertina effect further back. Turn 1/2 section of this track can be quite dangerous at the best of times, let alone with a small bump and everything tends to descend into chaos. The Camaro just runs a bit wide. It is so easy to do that at this circuit, at that particular corner, just as you crest the hill, especially on cold tyres, but you're not quite sure where your car's going to be at. Yeah, very easy to end up in trouble out there. Camaro, though, trying to chase down the Charger, and certainly top three were making a little bit of a breakaway. I had started much further down the order with my Corvette, but it was a really rather quick car. As we came through the S's, I was right on the bumper of a Daytona ahead of me, looking for a way past. This is not a particularly easy place to get overtakes done down this section, but the Corvette was so quick. I could carry the quarter speed. I get to the inside for this very fast turn. The Daytona tries to do a cutback, but it can't quite maintain the speed of the Corvette. I'd then go on the attack of the Camaro ahead, left a bit of gap up the inside. I couldn't quite fit my car alongside. However, the Dodge is trying to go the long way around on the outside, but can't make it work. It's a little bit of a tag as well from the vehicle behind that, yeah, you can't keep up with the Corvette. The two Camaros ahead of me are fighting. I get a little bit boxed in as we run down towards turn one. I'll get up the inside of the green car. I couldn't quite put it up the inside of the vehicle ahead, though. Never mind, I was going to try the outside at turn two, a little bit too far back to make that one work. Camaro pretty good through these corners, but I can get a better run off the turn. Just the sheer acceleration of my Corvette would be enough to have me up the inside as we come over the crest of the hill for the second time. Back towards the front, and despite some early bumpings, the front group were actually still relatively close as this Firebird was trying to make a move on the Plymouth Fury, and sure enough, dives to the inside. Now, I've often said that Sonoma, certainly the short layout that I tend to run, is quite a difficult track. It's a very difficult track to overtake on. This GP layout, I'm actually liking this more and more. The more I drive this layout, the more I like it. This place, a little bit easier to get passes done. There's a few more opportunities. This corner here in particular is a good spot for overtakes, but the Firebird had got the overtake done before they ever got there. This midfield group would have one hell of a battle going on for a large part of the race. And I've got to say, this particular race was really rather fantastic for on-track action. It's almost solidly too wide as we round the hairpin. I'd managed to break away from this group in the Corvette, trying to chase down the leaders, and these guys were all squabbling for positions. Camaro trying to fend off a Nova. There was a Stingray behind them. A Dodge Dart was trying to have a look up the inside into turn one. Ran out of space for doing that. The Camaros going defensive as they head up towards the second corner. Runs it too deep. Nova's going to cut back to the inside to try and get the position. A second Dodge Dart is now trying to join in as we're going too wide as we come up the hill. These are pretty fast corners up this section. Not very much in the way of braking zones. You've really got to get things right. And the Nova spent too long stuck behind the Camaro. The Corvette spots his opportunity and would get up the inside. Now, both of the Darts were looking for a way past, well, each other and anything that they could pick off. It's side by side through the next corner. The Nova's not giving up, though. He'll get to the inside of the next turn, just tags the back of the Corvette, puts the Nova very sideways. The Darts are just completely and utterly boxed in and got nowhere to go with the cars ahead racing each other. Stingray goes for a bit of a Petrov off across the grass, just too much understeer. That would drop the Corvette back into the battle with the Darts. The red Dart's going to get up the inside of the Nova. Stingray's back to the inside of these cars. The Darts all across the curb trying to hold that place against the Stingray, and still the Camaro would manage to hold on to the position as the Dart would sneak ahead of the Nova. Had a little bit of a look around for a lot of the mid-race. The field was kind of sorting itself out eventually. These kind of mid cars were having the best of the action, with the Corvette still trying to find a way past. I sort of jumped around for a lap or so trying to find out what else was going on, but still the Camaro was trying to cling on, causing a bit of a train behind him. The Stingray would get the move done down towards the final hairpin. Another one of the very solid overtaking spots. While all of the excitement had been going on further back, the front group had been sort of well, grouping up, really. The Mercury was having issues, not really staying on all four wheels. My Corvette was rapidly catching as I get to the inside of the Plymouth Fury. Yeah, my C1 Corvette was actually really rather good around this circuit. The Plymouth wasn't giving up, though, would fight back on the inside through the very, very long left-hander, but it just simply didn't have the grip to match the Corvette. I could hold it around the outside and would have the acceleration to outdrag him down towards the next corner. I'm on the preferred line as well as we come down here. I can just brake a little bit earlier, make sure I hold the inside line, don't give the Plymouth a chance to go for a cutback, and my Corvette would move up a position. And as you can see ahead, things were starting to get a little bit crowded for the lead. Camaro was holding on to the lead, but coming under increasing pressure from a Pontiac Firebird. But the Firebird just could not quite find a way past, and they had to be careful, because not far behind them was an AMC Javelin, and behind that there was another group of three of us that were catching up as well. The Firebird spotted an opportunity, tried to dive to the inside, but it's just too tighter a line. Ended up across the grass on the inside, just couldn't hold it, have to back off. And as soon as you start doing that, well, now the Javelin is right up here into contention. The Camaro was just got enough acceleration to cause the Firebird problems. He could just get away from the danger zones with the Firebird, that he could hold on to the lead. And as they came around for the final time, it remained very much like this. With a lagged out ghost car, of course, on a Forza replay. It wouldn't be a Failrace versus Community without one of them appearing at some point. The Camaro, the Firebird, was going all sorts of wiggly through that fast corner. The Pontiac actually coming under more pressure from the Javelin on this final lap than he was putting on the leader. The AMC tries to cut back. The Firebird just covers the inside. I would move up a position on the final lap as well. The Firebird gets a fantastic run, but can't quite do it. Both cars end up out a bit wide. The Camaro would take victory. Firebird second ahead of the Javelin in third. It was one hell of a race at Sonoma. So next we went to the Laguna Seca circuit, as Dodge Dart just gets so quickly off the line, actually gets himself in trouble. It launches so fast, gets caught out by a relatively slow accelerating Corvette. The Corvette we're following here, though, was trying to find his way through the pack, trying to get to the inside of cars. Everybody has a little bit of a reshuffle in the background. A Dart can't quite hold it through the first corner. The Corvette would move up position. Now, you may notice the odd Lotus Cortina and Ford Capri in these, because, well, Ford technically gets counted as American, and as those cars are counted as Fords, well, I said classic American cars if people... I think it says more about the people that want to drive those cars than anything else, so that's why there's a couple of them wandering around. Either way, this Stingray trying to find a way past a Mustang hasn't quite been able to do it, although will get a good run up towards the top of the hill on the inside. It is so tough to go around the outside up here. The Mustang gives it a go, but in the end just doesn't quite have the grip. I get passed by a Dart as well at that particular section, and both of us would have fantastic acceleration breezing past the Mustang. Much easier for us to outdrag the Mustang on the run up there. I was still fighting my way with the Dart at that stage. Again, there was plenty of action further back, and Impala gets very slow out of the final corner, just ran in too deep, and that caused all manner of chaos as everyone scatters to try and avoid him. A C2 Corvette was having a look up the inside of a Cortina down towards the first corner, while the Stingray can absolutely bugger off in a straight line. There's a bit of issue getting stopped for turn one. The Impala tries to make it three wide, does get up the inside briefly, but then equally he can't stop it. The Cortina will cut back and get back past him. It was, plenty of excitement. These C-Class cars were proving to be rather good fun, as again we're going to be going too wide into one of the faster corners on this track, actually. It's a very tiny braking that you have to do for that turn, and the red Corvette would get the position. It's a good overtake getting a car through there. The blue car, though, fighting back on the inside. He can't quite stop it. Down there, will end up having to take quite a compromised line and fall back. I was holding on to a third place at this stage of the race, but coming under increasing pressure from a Dodge Dart. These Darts were stupendously fast in a straight line. I was a little bit quicker through the turns, but I make a mistake into the final corner. I end up out wide. I just can't get my car turned, and I'm too slow. Just don't have the acceleration to match that Dart. If I hadn't made any mistakes at all, it would have been interesting. Yeah, as soon as you make a little mistake, especially at that point when the dart has such incredible acceleration, I was, pretty much a goner. Mustang Boss was continuing to find vehicles to fight with, causing a little bit of a train. Gets a bit too wide out the bottom of the corkscrew to lose a place to the Corvette. The Cortina wants to try and follow around the outside, but it is quite a tough maneuver to make that one stick. If you can, though, you get to the inside of the next corner. It's a good overtake from the Cortina to move up a position. However, of course, the Cortinas, while very good through the turns, were always likely to struggle when it comes to the straight. And certainly that was the case further back. Stingray finding another Mustang to do battle with. Up ahead of them was a Cortina. And yeah, they could carry a lot of corner speed, but against these big and powerful classic American cars, they were not going to stand a chance. Stingray goes to the outside. The Mustang is happy to try and go up the inside. The Corvette gets a little bit of trouble with a wheel on the dirt. Not quite the ideal braking zone, really, there. Cortina tries to do the cutback and fight back against the Mustang, but in doing that around the first turn, you're always going to get in trouble for this next corner. That is a long way to try and go around the outside. The Cortina does, though, make the maneuver stick and goes chasing off after the Mustang up ahead, but now we've got another short straight. And that little Lotus is not really going to fare particularly well against these vehicles, as the 65 Mustang is to the inside for the next corner. They actually kind of use the Mustang Boss to block the Cortina in a little bit. He gets stuck having to try and go out wide, is slow off the corner, and the Stingray will profit and move up a position. The Stingray actually very nearly gets to the inside of the 65 Mustang as well. Thinks better of it, though. It's, you've got to be very, very committed to get up the inside at that particular corner. The 65 was already defending rather heavily. There was still plenty of action. While the front cars were a lot more spread out than we had seen at Sonoma, this was the fight over fourth place, as Stingray would move up against the Camaro, the two Firebirds, going side by side through the next corner. That's another great overtake around the outside. We saw a lot of great overtakes, actually, with these vehicles, as the poor blue Firebird would lose a couple of places in two corners. Yeah, that's it's not the easiest of overtakes to pull off, that one, trying to get it around the outside. It's a very long corner, and a very fast corner as well. In these cars, it's, almost flat out. So, yeah, some impressive overtakes were going on. The biggest of the groups were further back, as a Pontiac GTO tries to find a way past the Stingray, gets a fantastic drive off of the bottom of the corkscrew and would get the move done. Up ahead, the Dodge Dart was trying to fight with the Cortina. The Pontiac just running a smidge wide, kicking up the dirt. Still the Dart is fighting with the Cortina. That's always the sight that you want to see. As a car's kind of chasing down the vehicles ahead of you, you always want to see the vehicles fighting up ahead. The Pontiac, though, just a little bit too far back at the front, and victory would go to a King Cobra. A relatively lonely race for the Mustang. Started very near to the front and would drive away in the early laps. Once the Dart had got free of the traffic, as you can see, the Dart would really close in to the Mustang to run out of laps to do anything about getting past him, and my Corvette would come home in third. A few too many mistakes from me dropped me down the order. Closer finishes would go on further back. Another Stingray fighting with the Corvette. Corvette, I think, didn't quite realise the space on the inside. Couldn't quite get away with that one down the corkscrew. Would drop back into line behind the Stingray. Still, though, going to fight it through the final couple of corners. Goes for the outside. It's a really long way around. The Stingray runs him pretty much to the dirt, but he keeps his car there. Put you on the inside for the final turn. Does get the car up the inside. The Stingray, though, happy to go for the cutback. Doesn't initially quite get it to work, but the Stingray has far, far better acceleration and would maintain the position as he crosses the line. Maybe not quite as crazy as Sonoma, but certainly Laguna was still proving to be an awful lot of fun with these vehicles. In our final race, well, seeing as we're driving American cars, we're going to stick with the American circuits as we head to the Road Atlanta track. I would once again start relatively down the order, giving me plenty to do. And this race would involve one mandatory pit stop. I was happy to stick my car on the outside, and while there was, I think, one bump further back, everybody actually made it through turn 1 incredibly cleanly in this race, which is always good to see. It's solidly too wide at the top of the hill, a very big slide from a Nova. It's almost 3 wide now as another Nova gets stuck out wide. Yeah, that's a lot of cars trying to fit into a very, very small piece of tarmac. Mustang fighting with a Nova up ahead. The Ford F100 is in the mix. It's a very sideways Corvette further back as we're now all streaming down towards the long straight. The 65 Mustang gets absolutely mugged. I think he ran a little bit wide at that stage. Just everyone comes soaring past him. I've got a Camaro trying to have a look on the outside. Camaro then almost gets in trouble as a Dart was happy to find a gap on the inside. Still we go too wide through this opening lap. It was certainly, yeah, a rather exciting opening lap, this one. Just behind my battles, the Novas were fighting with a Capri Corvette, gets himself in trouble, outbrakes himself into the chicane. That would have him a little bit slow off the corner as we head down towards the final turn. A few vehicles diving into the pits early for their mandatory pit stop. The Nova sweeps around the outside of the final turn to get to the position. Of all the overtaking spots at Road Atlanta, definitely one of the scariest. Get things wrong, you end up in that tyre bundle, and that is not a fun place to be. Up ahead, a Mustang got himself in a bit of trouble out wide at turn 1. The Nova here trying to catch the group ahead as they go too wide through the turns, and the Firebird would come out the better of the pair of them. Further up, there was still plenty of action going on. Camaros arguing for position as we come down the very, very quick S's up ahead. I was looking for a way past the Dodge Dart. The Ford F100 spots an opportunity, tries to get an opportunistic pass on the Camaro, couldn't quite make it stick. The Ford very, very quick through the turns, but it did not quite have the straight line speed or acceleration of these vehicles. Two Camaros following one another. The Dart ends up out a little bit wide, having been fighting with me, and Camaro is always going to take that opportunity to get up the inside as the Mustang goes for a little bit of rallycross in the background. They're now side by side though as they come down this very, very long straight. We've seen just how fast these Dodge Darts can be, and sure enough, the Camaro can't really hold him off. A Firebird is a wheel on the grass trying to get past the Ford. I was a little bit concerned about the Dart. My Corvette was pretty quick in a straight line. It was no match though for the Darts. The Dart thinks about having a look up the inside. I'm just far enough ahead though that I don't have to worry too much about going defensive, and the Dart can't quite get stopped in time as the Camaro would sweep around the outside. Getting the braking points right for that chicane, very, very important indeed around this circuit, and the Dart would just lose out a little bit. I would continue to fly with the Corvette, catching up to the leader in a couple of laps, and yeah, try to find a way past. Now, we'd seen that the mandatory pit stops had thrown up all sorts of interesting strategies. In all honesty, in this race, it didn't actually make a huge amount of difference, with a relatively balanced number of cars coming in at various times. Yeah, kind of early strategies didn't really make a huge amount of a difference. I kept out and would take the lead with the slightly better straight line speed of my C1 Corvette. As I was running in relatively clean air, figured I would stay out. Those that did come in though never came out in sort of too larger a group. So yeah, the actual mandatory pit stop didn't make a huge difference. It's the first one that we've had where the mandatory pit stops didn't really feel like they made a massive difference. The white Corvette did try to fight back against me though, just ran a little bit wide again. Wheels across the grass, very easy mistakes to make. As I said, as pit stops would come and go, the Firebird that had been sat in fourth place behind our little opening group was the first of the real front runners to come in, and he was going to be spat out into, well, the early stopping cars pretty much, as the Firebird leaves pit lane. A little bit of an awkward pit exit this one, because you come out just as they come up towards the top of the hill, right at one of the scarier corners. The Firebird get a little bit of trouble around there. There was a little bit of traffic, as you can see up ahead. The two Dodges, the Dart and the Charger, were fighting a little bit for position. The Charger actually gets a big oversteer moment and has to take to the grass. But on the whole, cars were coming in and then coming back out again in relative clean air. So, yeah, there wasn't a huge advantage to either strategy. The Charger, though, was trying to fight against the Dart, looking for a way past. Does get to the inside at the top of the course. Firebird can take much better line than the pair of them, but there's just no space to really make it 3 wide through this next turn, and the Dart would fight back on the inside behind them. And Nova was keeping an eye on the battle ahead. The Firebird didn't have the speed of the 2 Dodges to really do anything as they hurtle down this long back straight. The Charger was certainly doing a good job. One of the few cars, actually, that could really keep up with the Dart when it came to straight line speed. As I said, as the pit stops cycled their way through, a few cars would find themselves in battle. Again, nothing quite like the giant groups we had fighting at Sonoma. This is a more normal thing that we see in a versus community, a group of 3 cars fighting for position. Camaro trying to fend off the F100. They had a race-long battle pretty much for position. The Ford significantly better through the corners, but the Camaro much faster in a straight line. As the Chevy gets things wrong, runs a little bit wide through that turn, the Ford would spot his opportunity and would just about get ahead of the Camaro, but it was ever so briefly, as the Chevy would try and get to the inside. Can't brake as late as the F100, and the Ford would take the lead of this group, although they had to be aware of the Charger behind them. The Charger very quick in a straight line as they head onto the straight, and while yes, the F100 does have the position for now, it is quite a long way until the next corner, and sure enough, these 2 cars would come flying along to try and get past. Nothing really the Ford can do to defend down here. The Dodge would take the lead of the group. Camaro giving chase down towards the chicane. Camaro not quite close enough to have a look at the Dodge, and the Ford would have to do all of his overtaking work once again when it came to the twistier sections of the track. I would be one of the last cars, actually, to come into the pits because I was running at the front. I felt no need, really, to come in until the penultimate lap. Yeah, running in clean air, the Corvette was working well for me. I was hoping that I was going to come out and stay ahead of all the other cars that had pitted, and sure enough, you saw them just coming around turn 1. I actually gained a little bit in all of my pit stop. The pit entrance is a little bit dodgy in here. I guess I might have been a little bit braver than some other cars when it came to that section. The Mercury Coupe was, well, doing the same things, having issues staying on all 4 wheels, despite not looking like they are sort of massively prone to rolling over. I'm guessing running race tyres, or certainly running sport tyres, it was having some real issues keeping all 4 wheels on the ground, and that was making it prone to offs here and there, as it did recover and managed to hold off the Ford Capri through that section. That actually benefited the Corvette, slowing down the Capri at that particular section. Yeah, it was just about clinging on, well, pretty much clinging on to the track at most times. Certainly not the easiest of cars to drive, this one, as the Capri and Corvette would continue to fight at the front, and I would go on to take victory in this one. Second and third would close up a little bit. I was just making sure I didn't make any mistakes on these final laps, in a relatively comfortable lead after the pit stop. The Camaro would come home in second, with the Firebird in third, followed by a Dodge Dart in 4th place. All of these races actually had been pretty damn entertaining. The closest of finishes, though, that would go further back, as 65 Mustang was trying to fend off a Corvette and a Dodge Dart. The Dart tried his best to go around the outside of the final turn, ends up very nearly into the tyre bundle. Good sort of overtake from the Corvette. Yeah, around the outside of the final turn is always a bit of a dodgy one to try and get right, but points for effort and keeping it out of the tyre bundles in the end there. However, that will be it for this versus the community. The next one shall be held on Wednesday, the 22nd of June. I'm not going to be around on Thursday. I'm going to be down at Goodwood, Goodwood Festival of Speed. So, yeah, we're going to be doing it on the Wednesday. We are going to go racing with some A-class movie cars, or movie and TV cars. If you would like to sign up and take part in that, then you can via our forums. There will be a link in the description. Find the Failrace versus the community section, and you can sign up in there. But that'll be it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.